Welcome, caviar connoisseurs, to this episode of Sports Caviar. I'm one of your hosts this evening, Javi, and I'm joined by Matt. Don't be nasty, Burn.
Good evening, man. Yeah, Burn here, guys. Excited about this week's episode. Looking forward to it. Lots to cover, some exciting matchups. And yeah, we're missing our boy Bijon today. Unfortunately, down with an illness. We felt like it would be a smart choice to keep him off of this amazing caviar episode.
Yeah, I think he had a runny nose, right? Just a little bit of a sniffle.
Yeah, it was a little heavy last night on the drainage, and he just couldn't make it today.
Huh.
Tough loss.
Yes, you connoisseurs, you're stuck with the OGs here for this episode, but I promise you'll enjoy it. We're going to get started with the NFL. There was a couple of teams that lost on Sunday, and I was curious if their fan base, or even in your opinion here, if you think that they should hit the panic button where we're at in the season and after the losses that incurred here. We have the Buffalo Bills, we have the Miami Dolphins, and the San Francisco 49ers. Thoughts?
And I hate to do this, but you probably throw in my Lions too. But I would say out of all of those, I think there's cause for concerns across the board. The nice thing about the Bills and the Dolphins is that they're in the same division. They've got the division pretty much wrapped up. It's going to be between one of them. They play each other again. If you're going to go by that, I would say that the Dolphins are more of a panic, but they've lost to some good teams. They obviously lost to Buffalo first. Losing to Philly, who's 6-1, I can't get too crazy on that one. So I feel like San Fran is going to be my choice for the sole reason that losing to Cleveland with PJ Walker is an issue. Losing to Kirk Cousins with no running game and no Justin Jefferson, it's a problem.
Yeah.
They're a different team. Now that Dabo Samuel was out for a little bit, the running game didn't look great. C-Mac with the fumble. But Brock Purdy didn't look as accurate as he usually is. And you throw in the rookie kicker with continuing his struggles on the kicking side of things. I just think that their defense is elite, but their offense is going to have to figure something out to do something in that division and in that conference. I would say right now, if I'm a San Francisco fan, I'm a little on the edge, a little concerned. What about you?
You could make a case that any of the three teams you could technically hit somewhat of a panic button here right now. The Dolphins, the only thing that concerns me about them is that their two losses that they've had are against the elite teams in the NFL. Philly and then Buffalo at the time we thought was elite, so we don't really know. But their two biggest games of the season so far, and they didn't really show up all the way. So if you're a Miami fan, you're probably a little bit concerned about that. Whether or not you want to hit the panic button, I don't know, because they are still number one in the division. So they're probably looking at the panic button and they're just right here and just getting ready to hit it, but not just quite yet. I think Buffalo, you're hitting the panic button because you don't know what's happening. Why are they continuously losing these games? They're supposed to be better than that, and they're not. And it's a cause for concern for sure. And with San Francisco, I don't know what's happening the last couple of weeks, but what I think is happening, I don't think that they have to hit the panic button because I think they're probably safe in their division unless you think Seattle can make a run. The Rams aren't looking so good right now. So I think San Francisco has a good opportunity to, no matter what, probably win the division. But as far as if you rewind 2 weeks ago, we thought San Francisco was a clear-cut favorite to win the Super Bowl.
Correct. Mm-hmm.
And so
we're getting there.
Yeah, but I think that one of the things that's happening right now is I think the NFL defenses are starting to figure out their scouting report on Purdy.
He was an unknown, right? Last year, and goes on that wild streak. Obviously making it to the FC Championship. Yeah, I'm with you. I just feel like that they're finally starting to see him a few more times, and that scouting report is starting to catch up to him. So I'm with you.
Yeah.
I think the panic button is close for San Fran. I can see the Buffalo side of things. For me, they still control their own destiny for the fact that they've already beaten the Dolphins. And if they keep that same record and beat them again, then they're going to win that division. But get back with me in a few weeks.
Yeah, really just looking ahead to Thursday of this week here. They have the almighty Bucks, right? So I think that I'll be the first to say it. I would say Buffalo's going to win that game, no problem, the way that Tampa's been playing. So I think that those Thursday night games can get a little ugly sometimes, so you never really know. But I would venture to say they're probably going to right the ship this weekend or this week and get a much needed win against my lovely Buccaneers. And that'll probably that who knows what happens after that. You start these losing streaks and you just have to get back on the winning side, and then you can just take off running from there for all we know. Now, they can't lose that game. If they lose that game, then there's going to be just a million questions in the world on what's happening in Buffalo, right? So they're going to be pounding the panic. They're going to be pounding the panic button there.
Yeah. If they lose to Tampa, we're going to have some serious concerns for Buffalo moving forward. And I would say the fans will be in an uproar for sure.
Yeah. So let's go on to the next topic here. So there's a couple, I would say that in the world of college football, there's a clear line now. You have the undefeated teams. You have almost one from each conference that's leading the pack, and they're just maintaining their distance in the upper echelon of college football right now with that big goose egg and the loss column. So that's where we're at right now. But there's a couple teams that have only one loss as well. And so out of the following one-loss teams, I'm curious which one you think has the best chance of making a run at the playoffs. So we have Oregon, we got Alabama, we have Texas, and we have Penn State. What do you got?
I hate to say this because I don't have that SEC bias and I get upset about it at times, but I think Alabama has probably the best chance to make a run and sneak into those playoffs. And I say that just for the sole fact that they have LSU coming up. That's a ranked team. They pull that victory off. That's a huge win for them on the strength of schedule side of things. The committee will look at it like that. That gets them into the SEC championship as long as everything else falls into place as far as winning out or record-wise. You get to the SEC championship, I would assume, we can all assume here that it's going to be Georgia. You beat Georgia, who's going to go in there as the number one team. Alabama's, that's an easy path to the playoffs, a guaranteed path to the playoffs. Oregon, I like them. I think they should have beat Washington, but I think that there's a chance for another slip up down the road or a possible rematch against Washington. So I think that hurts them. Texas, again, rematch Oklahoma. I still don't think that their wins are as big. I guess beating Alabama would help. Penn State, no. Penn State's my least. That one, the way they looked this past Saturday against Ohio State, I don't see that even remotely coming close. They'd have to beat Michigan, and a lot of things would have to happen for them to move in.
Yeah.
So Alabama probably has the most precise path and probably the most legit path. What about you? Same?
Yeah. Okay, so Oregon, they're coming off of a victory against Washington State. Washington State started out the season pretty good there, but they've been falling off. So that Oregon basically just took care of business there, which is good. They stay in the top 10. Bama's win against Tennessee, I think that ended up being a pretty good win for them. I don't really like Tennessee per se, but the way that they played in that game, because Tennessee was up at half. So it looked like they were going to pull a rabbit out of their hat. And that was in Tuscaloosa too.
By gambling.
It just didn't look and they dominated the second half there, and they were like, you guys, that's it, enough playing around. You can go back and play your Rocky Top all the way back home. We don't even care, right? You're right. Bama does have a more clear path as long as they win out, then more than likely they're probably going to get in, but we're going to have to see who's undefeated at the end. I don't know if they'll get in over if there's 4 undefeated teams in front of them. That's going to get a little bit sticky if that happens. Now, the thing with Texas, I don't know if you saw or not, but they lost their starting quarterback. Quinn Ewers is out. He's going to be out for 4 to 6 weeks, basically the rest of the regular season. And then hopefully they can have him back for if they make the playoffs or whatever kind of postseason they're looking at. If you're Texas, you're hoping you can get him back for the Big 12 championship game against Oklahoma.
Right? Oh, you need him. You need him.
Yeah. And I didn't realize this. Arch Manning is not even the backup there. He's third
and I don't
string.
and I don't think he'll get in. I don't think there's a chance. I think it's the redshirt year for him, and we'll get back to him next year.
Unless something happens with Malik Murphy, because Malik Murphy is going to be their starter here. If something happens where he's not playing well, then here comes Arch Manning, and if he has a good game, then that's it. You're never taking him out ever again after that.
But it was like a clear win for Malik Murphy as the number 2, like during the spring practices. There's a steep learning curve coming right in there like that. So could I see it happening? If obviously yes, if Malik gets hurt and we get Arch in there, but I don't know if he makes that run that you're saying.
Yeah, it really depends. I don't think they have too hard of a schedule here coming up, so Murphy might be able to weather the storm, get him to the Big 12 title game, and then maybe Ewers will be back, and then they'll have to see what they want to do about that. But Penn State looked like a big piece of poop on Saturday. That's putting it nicely. Okay. All right. So just for the audience to understand here the magnitude of what's happening with Kirk Franklin at the helm, they're 3-16 against top 10 teams under James Franklin all time, which is just disgusting.
Not good.
What is that?
You can't win the big games.
Still have a job?
Because for some reason, somehow Penn State is not really worried about the big games. As long as you give me a 10-2 record, we'll keep you employed.
Yeah, and then they were 1 for 16 on third down or something like that. And I'm just like, man, these guys, their offense is trash.
You heard Mr. Franklin. He said that we just witnessed the 2 best defenses in all of the country. I disagree, but I think that's his way of saying that's his way of covering up some bad play calling and some bad quarterback play by his quarterback.
Yeah, and so like they're putting up 63 points or whatever against no-name teams. That means nothing. They can't score the ball against just even an average defense. Ohio State does have a good defense, but that was not a competitive game. I would say for Michigan, the way that Penn State lost that game, that matchup with Michigan that's going to be coming up in a couple weeks here, it's basically all or nothing for them now. And so that game is in Penn State. I think that actually might work in Penn State's favor, how desperate they're going to be in that game. If they would have won the Ohio State game, who knows what the level of desperation would have been at home. Now, their whole season rides on that. They have to win that game. No doubt about it. I don't know if they're going to be talking about firing James Franklin if they lose, but it's that kind of magnitude.
No, that's it's added pressure now. That's the game of the season for them. They have to win that game to save face, to even stay in the upper echelon and be considered as good as Ohio State and Michigan, which everybody originally thought that they were in that tier this year. I don't see it. Based off how they played this past Saturday, I feel very good about Michigan's chances of going on the road. Yeah. I would, again, I know we're going to talk about this at all times on Michigan, and they haven't played anybody either, but I feel like their defense is at the same level as Ohio State, if not better. I actually think they're better. So I think going to Penn State, they should be able to manhandle them and control that game from start to finish. And it should be very similar, if not a little stronger, beating by Michigan.
Yeah, I think that what's going to end up working in Michigan's favor in that situation is that Penn State as it stands right now, the real rankings come out next week. We'll see where they have Penn State, but they're going to be ranked, right? Michigan gets the benefit of the doubt of the fact that Penn State did have enough hype coming into the season that it doesn't really matter how good they actually are. If Michigan goes in there and whips a can on them, they're gonna get points for it because Penn State's ranked and they're highly ranked. So it's gonna look good on their resume. So I think Michigan's gonna take care of business there. Penn State doesn't belong in that
Yeah.
realm, but they're
Well, I think
they're there right now.
and as long as Michigan does what they're supposed to do and what we were expecting, which is open up a little can of whoop ass on them, they're gonna get extra points because they're gonna compare it to what did Ohio State do to Penn
Right.
State. And so now you have the comparable games and the comparable wins, and it's like, all right, those comparable opponents say, look, Ohio State beat Notre Dame, Ohio State beat Penn State, so we're high on them. If Michigan does the same thing to Penn State, then or better, then they're going to use that against and say, look, all right, those are extra points for sure.
Yeah, for sure. Did you by any chance see the Iowa fair catch issue?
Those refs should be looked into and fired. That was horrible.
Yeah,
was
so it got
no fair
reviewed.
catch. Yeah, and they still called it. I feel so
explain
bad
to me
for the
what
Iowa.
happened there.
You know, everything that I saw, which is just great. First of all, Iowa's offense. I feel you feel bad for the Iowa just team in general and the fan base. There's no offense. It was a very boring game, but with what I think was a minute 20, minute
Shocker
30.
there.
Yeah. I was about to get the ball back on a punt. They punted, not the greatest punt. It was going to land a little short. Their kick returner decided he was like pointing at the ball and telling his players to, hey, look, don't get near it. Don't get near it.
Poison. Yeah.
Waving but not, the hand did not go up. He was pointing at there and just get away, please. And then just rolled. And he's, you know what? Screw it. I guess I'll pick it up. Damn, took it to the damn house. It was a phenomenal football play. That guy, fantastic. And to take that away, not only call it off, but then review it and stick with it. No, that's a disjustice.
When I saw the replay, I was my first thought was like, what are you talking about? He didn't call for fair catch, but I guess so. The referee, I guess he explained it afterwards, and he said that something about the motion of one of his hands and the other hand at the same time is a illegal fair catch signal. And so that's what they were calling. I've seen punt returners millions of times wave their hands in like a scissor motion and then go and field the ball. I've never seen anything called on it where it was an illegal fair catch.
So because he was pointing, because that's the only thing he was doing. One arm was pointing and the other hand was doing the other half of the scissor. So there's no way that you look at that and you're like, yep, that's a fair catch. I feel bad. Look, Iowa's not good, but they deserve to win that game. I mean, that should have been a W.
It's a gross game. Was the final like 12-10 or something?
It was 12-10. Yeah. Not that 16-12 would have been any better, but it was
that was like the most exciting play of the whole day, and they took it away from the fans. All right, so I definitely want to talk about some baseball here because we're getting into the series here. And as it stands right now, we're going to talk about the ALCS, but as it stands right now on this recording, the Phillies are up 2-1 in the top of the fifth on the D-back. So we'll have to see who ends up advancing in that one. But as it stands right now, the Rangers have clinched, and they are on their way to the World Series. They have home field advantage. They take down the mighty Astros, which I think 98% of the nation probably was happy about that. My question to you is, how do they do it? And what do you like about the momentum heading into the World Series?
How they do it? Montgomery, and I don't know how to pronounce his name, I'll be honest, but is it Adolis Garcia? What a sick performance over the ALCS.
Yeah.
And what were his stats? 10 of 28, 5 home runs, 15 RBIs, which is a record for a postseason series. The guy absolutely carried them offensively. I think he hit a home run 4 straight games. Just a great performance all around. They did let Houston back in because Houston's a great team. You got to give kudos to them. But yeah, it's nice to see somebody different than Houston over the last few years to get Texas in there. Should be an exciting series, no matter who gets in there from the NLCS.
Yeah, so the funny thing is that the Rangers are in the World Series now, and I'm starting to see some of my friends post on social media that they're Ranger fans. I'm like, I didn't know that I had any Ranger fan friends until now. Like
You don't.
they're coming out of they're coming out of the woodwork, man. They are an exciting team to watch. I will give them that. A couple of things here.
They've got firepower.
Yeah, they do. They have Garcia, who's just turning into just a star, right? They have Simeon, they have Seager. They also have a 21-year-old Evan Carter, who I don't know if a lot of people paid attention to this kid, but he's been batting 300 basically just regular season and then also in the playoffs. Bruce Bochy decided to slide him up in the lineup even. He has enough confidence in him to do that, and he's been performing. So that's a diamond in the rough right there. He's probably getting paid $75,000 a year, if I had to guess. Like he's not making a lot of money, and he's plugging in the number 5 hole, and he's batting 300. So that's definitely helping their cause. I would say Jamon Eovaldi that you can count on. Max Scherzer, I don't know if you can count on him. He seems like I don't know if he's injured, but there's something about him that I wouldn't be mad that he was my pitcher that I'm giving the ball to in game 3, let's say. But the way he's been pitching, I don't know. I would just be a little bit weird.
Yeah. How many innings did he get the other night?
I think he only made it through 2 or 3.
3?
Yeah.
It's like they're using him as just an initial starter and then
an opener
and making a bullpen game.
I don't think that they want to do that. It's just that's what they're having to do. But he is coming off of an injury, and he came back faster than he probably would have liked to. So I don't like to make excuses for athletes like that, but it's true. If you're injured, it magnifies it gets in the way of your game. Yeah. And one other stat about Texas. This is going to be funny. So as I mentioned, they have home field advantage in the World Series, which you would normally say to yourself, "Oh my goodness, that's great. What an advantage," right?
Yeah.
They are 8-0 in the playoffs
on the road
right now. Oh my goodness.
Yeah, that's a crazy stat, huh?
8-0, and we're talking about Baltimore, Tampa, and then now the Astros. They don't care. They go on the road. They win.
But and let's just say, obviously the NLCS is currently not over yet, but Philly is on the others. They were undefeated at home until last night when they lost Game 6.
Yeah.
So yeah. Could be a cool matchup.
Yeah, and the Rangers are 1-3 at home, so they're not performing at home at all. And so you're just like, oh man, can we give them home field advantage for the World Series, please?
Just trade.
I would say just tip your cap to Texas for taking down Houston finally and doing everybody else a favor. The MLB is hoping that Philly wins this game, so we have Texas-Philly. That'll be a good matchup. In reality, it would be a good matchup if it's Texas-Arizona as well. It's just nobody's going to care because it's the Diamondbacks.
Yeah. No, I think MLB and most people are looking for Philly to pull this one out. Two big markets there.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
Yeah, I think that'd be a fun World Series. So we have USC has fallen off a cliff here. I don't know what happened to them. Caleb Williams had no passing touchdowns on Saturday, and he's never beaten Utah in his career, which is just a quirky stat. How have you never beaten Utah? But
you guys really should have taken that into account. Should have really taken that into account when we were betting the other day.
Yeah, even if you would have told me that stat beforehand, I would have been like, yeah, now, so then he's due. So no passing touchdowns. He's out of the Heisman race now, I think, which is crazy
Removed.
because he was leading in 2 weeks ago, and just like that, he's out. What does it mean for his USC legacy right now? Do you think he's overrated? And also, do you think that Lincoln Riley is overrated?
I think there's a blemish on his legacy. I still think that he's probably the number one overall pick in the upcoming NFL draft. I still think the type of quarterback that he is, I still think he's looked upon as the Patty Mahomes Jr. type. I still think he's an elite quarterback. I think he goes back to Lincoln Riley, and I think that's where who's overrated is going to be Lincoln Riley. But at the end of the day, Caleb needs to pull out wins and carry his team on his back, and he's been unable to do that. Like you said, with the lack of touchdowns, they have a prolific offense. He is an elite quarterback, and he hasn't performed the last couple of weeks. So I think there's a blemish. At the end of the day, what's that going to look like, and does he really care? But I think Lincoln Riley, he's done what he's always done. He brings a great offense to the table, but he's had Caleb Williams. He's had some pretty good quarterbacks in his repertoire. And I was looking at the crazy thing, like the first 22 games of Lincoln Riley's career at USC compared to the first 22 games of Clay Helton, the guy that they fired so they could bring in Lincoln.
Yeah.
Both 17-5. I mean, what are you doing, Lincoln? Like, you've got to be able to win the Pac-12. You got to win the big games. And he's been unable to do that. Yes, he was a big name and he was able to bring Caleb over, but what's that translated to? I think he's a good coach, but is he in that upper echelon? I think we can question that these days.
Yeah, he better get himself.
What about you?
Yeah, he better get himself. He has to figure out the defensive side of the ball. You can't give up 50 points a game and expect to win every time. Because where is USC going? They're going to the Big Ten. Yeah.
And you know what you need in the Big Ten? The defense that can stop the run.
Yeah. They're going to be going against these country boys who they're not going to be giving up more than 3 yards per carry.
Those Midwest boys are well fed.
Yeah.
Be concerned.
Yeah, so USC going to the Big Ten, I don't like that for them. It doesn't seem like a good fit for them.
It doesn't fit them at all.
Maybe they go in there and they try to outscore everybody, and bring the Pac-12 culture to the Big Ten. But I don't really see that happening.
Look, Michigan had to deal with that. They had Rich Rodriguez try and bring that. Hey, we'll outscore you. We're bringing this new offense to you. And that got shot down quick. So I don't like the fit. I don't mind it because it's big names. There's going to be some big games as far as ranking goes, which will look good for, as you say, strength of schedule, which counts. I think
definitely.
it bodes well for Michigan and Iowa State that are going to be the powerhouses in that conference. No matter if they bring in Washington, USC, UCLA, Oregon, it's fine. Get a defense, and then we'll talk.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting when they do the conference realignment, how I think Texas and Oklahoma are going to fit in just fine in the SEC.
I could see that.
They seem like a match made in heaven, those two programs. And
I think it helps with the head coaches too, with those two programs coming from where they
do. That's true. I think that Caleb Williams might be overrated because, as we know, the Pac-12, they don't play any defense. So what a lot of people do is they might not even watch the game. They'll watch some highlights. They'll check the box score and be, oh man, Caleb Williams threw 5 touchdowns, 7,000 yards last game. And they're just like, oh, he must be the number one pick. But then when push comes to shove and they're in a battle and they choke, that's what I like to see in the quarterback that my team in the NFL is going to be drafting. Is he a winner? Like Joe Burrow, for example. That's the type of guy you need to see that he has that DNA. I don't know if Caleb Williams has that.
Yeah, I that's a fair argument. I go back to how he was in Oklahoma. I thought he showed up there on quite a few games. I'd go back. Patrick Mahomes played at Texas Tech. They didn't really, he had his moments too where they faltered. So I don't know. I can see I see your argument. I understand it.
Yeah.
I still think that he's going to be a pretty damn good NFL quarterback when it's all said and done.
What I think these last couple weeks has confirmed is he was talking all this madness about not going pro because he was going to make too much money at USC. And he was like, oh no, if the Giants are going to pick me or whatever, I ain't going. Whatever teams he had on his list. But if he decides to come back and he starts doing more clunkers like this, that's just going to hurt him. So I think he has to, whatever happens this season, I think he's got to go. So I think that's what's going to happen. He has a good chance of going number one, but he has to finish the season better than the way he's playing.
Not if his demands are accurate. They're saying that he wants part ownership too. That's part of the deal.
Yeah. If you're the Bucks or whoever, you would just be like, okay, fine, I'll take Drake May. Like, you don't have to take Caleb Williams. Like, he's not that. Like, he's good. He's very good.
I don't think. I think prior to this season, he was in his own tier. I think he's fallen back, and I'm with you. I think Drake May's looked really good. So there's some quarterbacks out there.
All right, so let's talk about the Florida State game because it was a ranked versus ranked matchup, and you were in Tally for that game as well. So I wanted you to talk about that for a second as well. But so Florida State were down at half. The first half was very clunky. There was a lot of questionable calls in my opinion, by Mike Norvell. Set us back a little bit. We couldn't stop the run in the first half. And at halftime, you just weren't really sure what was going to happen. The game was at home, so I felt like Florida State was going to end up coming back and winning the game. But I was just like, when are you guys going to do this here? Okay, my blood pressure can only handle so much. What do you think were the main factors in that game why Florida State was able to come back and win that game? And talk a little bit about the environment in Tally.
Yeah, no, it was electric. It really was, and it was electric from the tailgate on. For our listeners, especially the FSU listeners, the little intramural field, it's just a wide open field and it was park here, put your tent up, and it was just a full connection of tent. Like there was no separation. We just walked through and was partying with everybody. Definitely had a group of youngsters next to us celebrating their homecoming. I think they graduated like 19. Brought back some old days, flip cup, shotgunning. Did I play a little beer pong? I did. I had to show them that these old guys could still hang. But awesome scene. The weather was perfect. Perfect day for football. But I'm with you. That first half there was definitely some questionable calls. I don't mind the fourth down, going for it on fourth down on that first drive. I think that we're on their side of the field. It was I think it was fourth and short, 4th and 1.
Yeah, fourth and inches. It's fine.
Let's do it. But the play call, I think that's where we have to. Duke's strength is up front. What are we doing running just a straight? It's just not good. Like, why?
I'll interrupt you there for a quick second. On the 4th and inches, I think what happened on that was Jordan Travis, he called I think that the offensive line knew that it was going to be a QB sneak, but it was supposed to be up the middle, and Travis saw the defense shift. And so he was trying to take advantage of the way that the defensive line was set up. So when he hiked the ball, he was trying to go quickly over to the left where he saw that there was a little seam there to dive in there. And he ran into his own man, and then that bumped him backwards. And then he couldn't get the first down.
I don't know. To me, we've got more creative play calls in the book to do that, knowing that that's their strength. Yeah, I just feel like we could have done something a little different and probably picked up a bigger chunk. The second one was horrible. First, I wouldn't have gone for it on our own 35, 36. You don't go for that.
Yeah.
I love the confidence but at the end of the day, we also have a pretty darn good defense, and the way Duke was playing, they were running all over us, but they couldn't throw. But I think 160, 170 yards rushing in the first half, that was embarrassing because we knew what they were going to do.
Yeah.
But I think second half, just like we always do, we've become this second half team, and I'm worried that we can only do it so many times against so many good teams. But we make
for Boston College, we were first half.
The one game. But I think defense really stepped up in the second half. think it was Lovett did a little his own little speech at half saying, "This is not allowed. This is unacceptable. This is not who we are." And those players bought in, and we shut them down in the second half, which was nice. Yeah, man, I think Riley Leonard going down also assisted a little bit. I think we knew that the backup wasn't going to throw. Hell, he was 1 for 6, 1 for 6, 1 for 7 with 6 yards or something.
He looked like
we really turned on we turned on the Jets the second half, and so it ended up being a pretty big win when it being down 2017 to score 21 unanswered. It was nice to see, and great for the fans. The stadium was rocking. One of the loudest games I've been to for sure. Even probably compares to that Miami game we went to a couple years ago.
Yeah, so I was actually curious about that because I haven't been to a home game in maybe a year or two here. And so I heard that, and I could hear it in over the loudspeaker too. And you can't really tell from watching it at home. You can't tell how loud the crowd really is. But what you can hear is in between the plays, it used to just be like the marching chiefs that would play. Now they're pumping in like hip hop and stuff, right? Like in between
plays. It was, oh yeah, like tons of hip hop. And they're doing.
Does it make it more fun? Do you like that or no?
Yeah, I think it broke it up a little bit. I think maybe cut it back a little bit and have some more chants from the band. But during the commercial break, they're doing, text this number and tell us what song you want to play next. But yeah, it was fun. Cool. It was loud. It was loud. I'm telling you, like,
okay,
it was,
all right.
It definitely, there was quite a few times where you could see Duke and having some issues with the play calling because they couldn't hear. So I think our fans stayed in it, which was nice. And especially coming down 10-0. How about that kick return, though, by the Deuce?
Oh, I love that play.
Could not have needed that more.
Oh, my goodness. It was like just what the doctor ordered. And then Jaheim Bell. Okay, so this is the thing for me. All right, so first half, I hated the 4th down call on our own 35. I'm just like, who does that? And then if you're going to do it, just run a play that is guaranteed to get the first down, please, because you can't be freaking, yeah. So I hated that. That was 3 points for them automatic because they were automatically in field goal range right there. But it was the second half adjustments on the offensive side of the ball that did it for me. So you had Norvell, give him credit. He was like, okay, we can't really run against this team that right now, right? So we have to go away from our initial game plan, Benson, whatever it was he was trying to do. And he was like, our mismatch is Jaheim Bell. He was feeding the beast, and they couldn't stop him. They couldn't stop Jaheim Bell, and they couldn't stop Jordan Travis when he was just They put that script. They were like, okay, you're going to run the ball the second half. We're going to dominate. You're going to run. You're going to pass to Bell. A little bit of Coleman in there. We're going to win the game.
And that's what I was going to
say. Yeah.
And that's why I don't know if it's the play calling. If that's Norvell saying, hey, look, we don't need to go that direction yet, or if it's Travis not trusting it. But that second half, putting Jordan in those RPO situations was huge. It started opening up the playbook. It allowed us to utilize our running backs a little more and actually get some lanes open. And again, those passes to Bell. Bell's a beast, man.
Man,
he
what
is
a
difference maker. Yeah, a mismatch.
Like,
I'd love to get him more involved.
He's our Bowers, basically. It's just we don't use him as much as Georgia uses Bowers because we have so many different schemes that Norvell likes to run, so it's not always going to feature Bell. And it wasn't featuring Bell in the first half either. It was just he was like, you know what? I see what's going on here. Boom, boom. This is how we're going to win the game. And then in other news, in recruiting news, Florida State was able to flip the number 1 player in the state of Florida. Armando Blunt, he's a D lineman, a 5-star guy. He's currently a 2025 guy, but the rumor is he's going to reclassify for next year. So that was a big pickup for the Noles.
Yeah, they said he's going to reclassify, and he said he's going to enroll early, so even nicer. But I think the re-rankings for 2024 puts him at like 20th overall. So still a 5-star.
Well, in the state of Florida or?
No. Okay. 20th overall. So it still puts him as
in
a
the
5-star in the nation. So, so that's a big pickup and a big flip.
Yeah, and then
especially after losing out to McRae.
Yeah, and then Cristobal is just more sweaty meatballs he needs for that loss there. Okay, so this might be a little bit touchy for you. I don't know how you feel emotionally after the Kitties versus Baltimore. I was expecting that game to be a lot closer than that. I thought it was going to be more of like a defensive struggle. Baltimore's hasn't looked so convincing this season, and Detroit's been on fire. So it was one of those situations. What a great matchup to have. Do you blame Detroit's offense or defense more in that game?
You blame them both. The offense didn't do the defense any favors, 3-and-outs. They didn't get their first down until it was already 28-0. Game got out of hand quick, but I just feel like the defensive game plan didn't work, and it didn't work from the start, and we didn't adjust. The idea from what Campbell's saying is that we were trying to keep him contained and not let him have these design runs where he can take off. So we kept him in the pocket, and all that did was we couldn't get pressure to him. So we kept him in the pocket, but he had 7-8 seconds they're going to get open. So it was abysmal from the start. It was an embarrassment from the start, and it got out of hand way too quick. I'm thankful that it wasn't a shutout, and I'm thankful it wasn't a Miami-Denver score. Good teams lose to good teams, and they have these hiccups. But hey, we're 5-2. But that I think I blame the defense more than I blame the offense. Once it got out of hand, the offense could only do so much, and we didn't really have a running game, and we couldn't really establish it because it was already the game's gone.
At that point, you just had to drop back and pass and just hope.
Yeah,
I was, I was shocked by that. Goff's QBR was like 11,
14
at the end of the game.
It was
It's really
not
bad.
good.
I think that it's to be expected. You're not going to go undefeated. Detroit was just absolutely on fire over the last couple of weeks, so they were due. I hate to say it, they were due for one of these games. Not to say that they're going to be this type of team going forward. I think that they've established themselves as one of the better teams in the NFL. So I think that they'll bounce back. Who does Detroit? Are you guys on a bye, or do you guys?
No, yeah, and I think this week will be we're going to bounce back, which is nice. Raiders on Monday night. Prime time, baby.
Wow.
And so and it doesn't matter if Jimmy G's the quarterback or Brian Hoyer or Aiden O'Connell. I feel bad for him because the Lions are not happy.
No, you guys should definitely win that game. It would be more fun to watch is Michigan versus Detroit on Monday Night Football.
Look, I'd be interested to see how that plays out.
I
think Detroit wins by 27.
Really?
I'm a strong believer that I don't care who you are in the college side. The NFL teams they have better talent 1 through 22.
Yeah,
because you have the cream of the crop from all the college players go play for your team, and I just don't see it. But
it'd be cool to see that scrimmage or something. Yeah,
I love it.
Just something like I would love to see like the number one team in college football play like an NFL team, any NFL team.
Yeah.
Actually, would Michigan play the Raiders? I bet Michigan could beat the Raiders. Okay, you had an ACC battle. It was not a ranked matchup, but it was a game of interest, I would say, because it was a must-win for both programs. So you had Clemson going to Miami, and a very close game. Clemson had the lead early in that game. It looked like they were going to keep control of the game and win. It ended up going to overtime. Dabo was just a sweaty mess on the sideline. It was like, I don't know if he's ever been to Florida. He was like, I've never seen a guy sweat so much in my life. I don't know what's happening.
Down south.
But yeah, give me some credit. They were able to make enough plays to go up by 8 there. And then it's 4th and inches. Take it from there, Birn.
Well, it's 17-7 through third quarter. Miami makes the comeback, which was great. Brings it into overtime. Get into the second overtime. Miami scores first. Gets the 2-point. Clemson has to score. It's 4th and inches. And Klubnik goes for an RPO, really. It's like, and based off what Dabo's saying is that was a handoff. It should have been a handoff. It was supposed to be a handoff, and our quarterback didn't hand it. But who goes out? He goes wide. 4th and inches, not 4th and 6, and gets dragged down at the sideline for an embarrassing loss, an embarrassing finish for Clemson. If I'm a Clemson fan, this is it. Like, I'm falling full body on the panic button because this has been a bad season for them. Like, some really bad games. 3 losses inside the ACC. That's Miami, Duke, and FSU twice in overtime. Yeah, give the credit to Miami, but Miami shouldn't have won that game in the first place, but they did. So I guess it makes up for the old, let's not take a knee.
I don't think nothing's ever going to make up for that, but
But horrible play call. I don't know. What do you think they shot? Up the middle?
That was the play call, but do you think that Dabo do you think that he was throwing Klubnik under the bus by actually admitting that he's the one that
100%,
that audible it out of that?
100% said nope, 100% that was a it was a handoff. Call was a handoff.
Yeah. And so he was pissed off
and they didn't hand it
probably.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
K did. I think K did accept it and said, "Hey, look, I was just trying to make a play," something like that. But man, that's a rough one, and it gives Miami some excitement, I bet.
It gives them a glimmer of hope, which if you're a Florida State fan, you're probably not excited to hear that because they're probably going to win this week against Virginia, even though they beat North Carolina in a massive upset. Nobody picked that one, I'm sure, in the world. And they'll have a little bit of momentum going into Tallahassee. I guess it's fine. It makes the game a little bit more fun. It probably makes Miami ranked when they play Florida State, I would probably say. They might be
distinct possibility.
Yeah, they'll probably be like high 20s or something. This not really much to say about this, but Oklahoma and Washington both ended up winning on Saturday night, but just not in convincing fashion whatsoever. I was watching the Arizona State game and I was like, how are they in this game? They had 7 turnovers. Washington had 7 turnovers. And Arizona State, all they could do is just take the ball down to the 40. And they couldn't do anything with it. And I was like, what is happening in this game? Michael Penix looked bad. And somehow he's still leading in the Heisman right now. And then Oklahoma, UCF was 2-point conversion away.
I would say, man, I was pulling for UCF, but again, like we're talking about Clemson, play call, like, I don't know, like just not a good call. UCF looked really good. I mean, they played really well against Oklahoma, but at least Oklahoma, they moved the ball. They played pretty decent defense. Watching Washington that was hurtful. I mean, it was tough to watch. Washington's offense has been like top 3 all season, and against a 1-6 Arizona State, couldn't muster much at all. What Penix had 3 turnovers, 2 interceptions, and I believe a fumble.
Yeah, and no passing touchdown.
You say he leads the Heisman. I think that he's probably slowly fading.
He should be.
He's going to have to really.
I think McCarthy's actually leading now.
I think McCarthy was 1 last time I saw, or 2. I mean,
out of nowhere, he went from the Heisman rankings are funny because McCarthy was like 6 last week, and then now he's like number 1. I'm like, what are you guys doing?
And I think it's more probably attributed to the fact that the other quarterbacks are fading away, and he's just been consistent. I think he had 4 touchdowns.
Gabriel played solid, and JT ended up actually having a really good game. He had that pick 6, but
JT's up there now, right? Probably top 5. There's a chance that he gets
he's like top 3. Yeah,
I think if he plays like he continues, like he's been playing, and he takes care of business against Miami and Florida, that there's a damn good chance he gets invited to New York. I don't see him winning, but there's a chance he gets invited.
Yeah,
I don't think there's a guy right now. There's no player. There's no Caleb Williams last year, right? Right now, it's a free for all. It's open.
Yeah, It is open, and I think that he has a very legitimate chance, especially if he's gonna start using his legs like that, which I don't anticipate Florida State allowing him to do that because they need him to stay healthy for the playoff run. But it just shows you when he's running the ball and he's that actual true dual threat QB, he's a
Mm-hmm.
beast.
It
So
really is, and
he's
it's
Heisman
pick your poison.
candidate for sure at that. Yeah.
Yep, it's a
So
pick your
the
poison
last
when he's on
topic,
point.
yeah, oh yeah. So Ohio State, they run through Penn State. We put a poll up on our message board. Thank you to all of the connoisseurs who took the time to vote on our poll because we actually genuinely wanted to know what your thoughts were because me and Bernie were talking about it and I was like, yes, Michigan's great and everything, but there's that whole cheating scandal as we all know, and then there's the fact that they haven't played anybody. So should they legitimately be number 2 in the nation or should they be like 4? So I'll tell you what the poll results were. It was pretty close, actually. It was right down the middle. It was like basically 7 saying that they should be, and then there was the other half saying that they shouldn't be. So I I guess it remains to be seen on what the playoff rankings are going to show. Because who does Michigan play this weekend?
I think we have a bye,
Do they? Because my thing is that okay, so
actually.
there's obviously something. There's Georgia and as far as the AP is concerned, Georgia and Michigan, there's like this massive wall of China after that. They won't allow anybody to just break through that. They're like, we don't care who Georgia has played or how they've looked, and we don't care how Michigan looks as long as they're winning these games by 45 points. That's fine. They're number 2 in the nation. We don't care who they play, and we don't care who you guys play and beat. Right? Ohio State has 2 ranked victories. So does Florida State, and it's oh yeah, but those are all great wins. But you're not going to pass Michigan. They're like, no way. There's no way you're going to pass Michigan. So it's okay. We'll see what the playoff rankings show. You don't
Look,
think
I
Ohio
get it.
State did enough to leapfrog Michigan?
Mm-mm. No,
You don't like that win against Penn State and Notre Dame?
I don't think Penn State's as good as advertised, and I don't think Notre Dame is either.
Yeah.
I think there are obviously big wins for Ohio State. They did what they're supposed to do, which was win. They barely beat Notre Dame. It took a last second thing, and Notre Dame
Yeah.
had a chance. Penn State, yes, they dominated them in the fact that neither team could really do much. Marvin Harrison Jr. is on a different planet, and so fantastic. But their Ohio State's running game wasn't fantastic. Penn State's defense held them in check. They scored 20 points. Cool. Garbage touchdown, Penn State. I get that. Ohio State dominated Penn State, but I don't think they did enough to leapfrog. And just like you said, Georgia has continued to win over the last 2 years, won the national championship twice, and you're carrying that over, right? Michigan has been in the playoffs the last 2 years. They continue to dominate. They have the same quarterback as they had last year, pretty much relatively same team, same studs on the running backs. So I like not much has changed. And then this year, all they've done is dominate. Yes, they're teams that you were saying who they've really played, but they've dominated. They've done exactly what they're supposed to do against teams that are not as good as them. They've 24 plus points every single game. Average wins by 35 plus. They've the point differential is more than 121 teams have scored all season.
Yeah.
So
I would just say
I just don't think they've done it.
If Florida State played Syracuse every week, which we saw what Florida State did to Syracuse, if we played them every week, we would have the same point differential, right? That doesn't mean that we're the second best team in the nation. At some point, you have to prove it. Unfortunately for Michigan, we're not going to see it until Ohio State, really. And I'm actually curious to see what the real poll is going to show because I was looking at something today that was, I think it was CBS they put out their projections for what they think the playoff rankings are going to be. They had Georgia at number 6, bro.
Oh, wow. Yeah, no.
Yeah.
There's no way. Well, do you?
They're using the criteria that the playoff rankings are supposed to use, and supposedly they're not supposed to use any of the other polls whatsoever in their in how they rank teams and stuff. So I think if that's true, that would be such a headline right there that the
It would be
new rankings
bizarre.
come out, and then we're
And
saying
Georgia's
Georgia's
sixth.
number 6. Yeah.
What do you? How do you? What's your take on comparable opponents? I like. How much do you take into that? Do you take that? Is it a heavy percentage on where you compare one team against the other?
If they're good, if you're talking
No.
about like how bad does Michigan beat Penn State?
Yeah, but they also have had, they both played Big Tens. They played Indiana, and Ohio State won 23-3. Michigan won 52-7. Like, I think that you have to, that has to have some sort of weight. And yes, I agree. Like,
I think that has
once
a
they play
weight.
Penn State, and yes, once they get better teams, like better opponents. Okay, so we'll see in 2 weeks when they play Penn State. I think it's Michigan's off this week. They play Purdue next week, and then the weekend after it's Michigan, Penn State, and then they play Maryland, and then they play Ohio State. So it's.
By the way, I think that if anything, in the eyes of the college football world, Michigan apparently has won them over enough to where people are buying into Michigan regardless of what I have to say, right? Doesn't really matter. But my point is that I think that if this was Florida State and we just were playing all these teams that like we knew we were going to win, or we knew that we were going to beat them, and then we were winning by 50 points or whatever, I would feel good. But I would also feel a little bit uneasy going into the playoffs, not knowing that I actually feel better that Florida State's been in more like some dog fights and we're able to come back and win those games and stuff. I think that actually has more of a lasting power when you're talking about making a playoff run, because when you get to the playoffs, it's gonna the batten down the hatches. It's gonna be tough competition in those games. And if if that particular team hasn't really been there, you don't know. That might not be a good thing for Michigan.
I hear you, but it's like, I guess you're saying that we're being penalized. Michigan's being penalized for not being in those dogfights, but Florida State going against Boston College and barely winning counts.
Oh, no, I'm not saying for ranking.
LSU.
Yeah.
So you're just saying for overall, that seeing that adversity, and that's going to help.
Yeah.
Actually, okay. I honestly think when it comes from Michigan, adversity is going to come at the end of the season, and it's shit or get off the pot, and it's at home, so I feel good about it.
Yeah, I
hear you.
Too.
Florida State, Georgia, Oklahoma, they've all had these ones that they just, shit, we got to pull this out. We got to get this W. Yeah, and I think it does. I think you can take both sides, but I see it. I see that.
But I mean, you talk about the 2013 Florida State team. They didn't have that adversity until the national title game. And it was like, I was nervous as crap at halftime. I was like, these guys don't know how to play in a game like this down at the half.
Thank God we did.
Yeah, we'll see what happens there. So we're going to move on here. So we're going to do some quick pick'ems here for you guys. So last week, it was actually Bijon. The real reason why Bijon isn't here with us for this podcast is because he did I think it's a world record. He literally didn't get one pick right. We were going to have him come on here and apologize to you guys, but I guess he got too scared and he decided just not to do the podcast at all because of it.
He might never show up again.
Don't worry. We're going to make sure that he apologizes next week when he comes back on.
Oh, yeah.
All right, so this is our favorite game, as we all know, the Don't Be Nasty, and I'm here with Burn Nasty, so we'll have to see. Season standings, just so you guys know, is in first place, 21-15. Burn is 16-20 losing record, and Bijon is 18-18 after his 0-5 last week. All right, first game on the docket. We got the Bengals at San Francisco. San Francisco's minus, or what was that line? Did that line change, Burn?
5.5 is what I saw.
Okay, 5.5. What do you got?
Look, Bengals, I think are finding their own. I think we've seen what San Fran's been the last couple of weeks. I just don't. 5.5 is a lot. I don't care who you are. And 5.5, spotting Cincinnati Bengals 5.5 seems like an easy choice. So I'm going to take the Bengals. Give me those 5.5. Wouldn't be surprised if that's an outright winner either. What about you?
This is a really good game in the NFL world because it's the tale of two different teams heading in opposite directions as we stand. But the game is in Candlestick, and so we'll have to see if San Francisco can't lose this game. They can't lose this game, but also Cincinnati can't lose this game because they already used up all their early season losses at the beginning of the season when they couldn't win a game. So everything leads to this being a close game. I'm going to take San Francisco minus 5.5. Next game, you have the pound.
Wait, do we have Bijon's picks? I think we do.
Did Bijon pick on this? Yeah, Bijon took San Francisco as well. Okay. So I don't feel comfortable now.
I like where this is going.
I don't like that I picked the same as Bijon.
I'm loving this.
All right. So then next game we have Cleveland traveling to the Pacific Northwest. Seahawks. The Seahawks are -3 at home. Who do you like?
I'm going to take the home team on this one. I just like the Seahawks better. Cleveland, most likely without Watson. Not that's a huge bonus for them with PJ. I'm gonna give me Seattle, lay the points, -3.
Yeah, I actually think that Cleveland's been surprisingly good without Deshaun Watson. I don't know, and
they played
in
better,
the latest,
actually.
Yeah, they have. And in the latest power rankings in the NFL defensive side, they have Cleveland as the best defense in the NFL right now. So I don't like Geno Smith. I think Geno Smith sucks. If Geno Smith was my quarterback, I would be like, it's not like I have anything to write home to mama about with Baker.
Say, are you really peeling Baker?
I would feel just the way that I feel right now. If I
would say, yeah, very similar.
Yeah, but so I'm going against, and I'm going to take Cleveland on the hot streak. Bijon took Seattle.
Guys, do I have time to switch?
All right, we got the beloved Jaguars at Heinz Field, formerly known as Pittsburgh's +2.5 at home. This is a good matchup. Who you got?
I'm with you. It's crazy if you sat there and it's like Pittsburgh's coming out of nowhere. They're 4-2.
Yeah.
I think. Like that. I'm like, where did that come from? Like, the biggest surprise that nobody talks about is where the record is right now. But I have to go with the better team, at least what I think is the better team. I think the Jags are riding high. The fact that, they're laying 2.5, I'm okay with that because they win by a field goal. Give me the Jags on the road, laying the 2.5, taking down the Pittsburgh Steelers. I know where you're going with this.
So Pittsburgh has been one of the most surprising teams in the NFL. Although I will say this, they shouldn't be 4-2 because that Baltimore game, the last minute of that game was just a disaster. Baltimore played so bad at the end there. They had that game, but that's not the way the NFL works, right? Or the sport of football. You give credit where credit's due, but I don't think that Pittsburgh's good. I don't actually think that they're good. I think that because they're coming into this game on a little bit of a hot streak, that's why the line is only at 2.5. But I think that Jacksonville is a much better team, and they're coming off of a little bit of a hot streak as well. And they have their first place in the division, right?
Oh, yeah. Yep, first place division. Steelers are fighting for it. I think they're tied or one game back to Baltimore because Pittsburgh had a bye week.
The NFC North has actually been that's been probably the best division in the NFL this season so far overall between all the teams. Cleveland and
they're
Pittsburgh
the only
playing really well.
Yeah, AFC North is the only division that all 4 teams are 500 or better.
Yeah, so I'm taking the Jags, and Bijon took the Jags as well. So that was actually a clean sweep. Normally, when the Sports Caviar crew's on a clean sweep, it happens, folks. So you can book it.
Take that to the
Um,
bank, please.
all right, so we have Oregon is traveling to Utah. Utah's +7 at home, and Utah's been hanging in there without their quarterback, man. What do you got?
And see, and I was the one caviar that said Utah would cover that to USC.
Yeah.
And here I am. But this one's tough because I don't know if I can continue to ride the Utah train. I think and believe that Oregon is the better team. Utah has the better defense, but I don't think they can score at will like they did against USC when they play Oregon. I think Oregon covers this. It's going to be close. 7's more than I would prefer, but I'm going to go with Oregon laying the 7 and covering.
Yeah, this game is 3:30, same time as the Florida-Georgia game, so that should be interesting. I just don't understand how Utah's been able to pull off these wins, man. I don't get it. It doesn't matter although they didn't look good against Oregon State, and they barely beat UCLA. They've been hanging in there, but what they do is they muck it up. They play their style of football, and that's just because of their coaching staff, just the way that the culture that they have over there. It's a tough place. It's a tough team to play. Like, it doesn't matter who their quarterback is. They're scrappy. They remind me of the Lions. They're just like they play a certain way, and that's the way that the game's gonna be. Yeah, and so I think I just talked myself into it. I'm gonna go with Utah +7 at home on that. Bijon took Oregon.
I'm not gonna lie to you. I actually love the pick. I can't do it this weekend.
I know Oregon is definitely the better team. I think Oregon's gonna win, but it's just I'm not gonna. It's like the Arizona Diamondbacks. I've been calling them crappy all season, and
now they're
score alert.
the
They're up 4-2. Yeah,
yeah.
it might
in
be
the
Arizona in the World
bottom of the 7. Bottom of the 7.
Yeah.
4-2. This is craziness.
Ooh, Philly fans are just gonna be salty after this.
Salty.
All right, next game we got Duke traveling to Louisville. This is the battle for the second spot in the ACC. We don't know if Leonard's going to play or not. This is a massive game for both teams, actually, because whoever wins this has a pretty decent chance of making it to Charlotte. There's still North Carolina involved, but whoever loses is out, more than likely.
Gone.
It's Louisville is -4 at home. Who do you got?
I'm going to take Louisville at home. With the uncertainties around Riley, seeing what their backup, is capable of doing. Yes, they can run the ball, but I think Louisville's the better team. Play the home team there. Coming off a embarrassing loss against Pittsburgh, I think Louisville avenges that and takes down Duke. But yeah, lay the 4 points, call it a win, and we'll see Louisville in the ACC championship. You agree, or you're going to go the other direction?
I thought that Duke was pretty impressive on Saturday night. Their defense was no joke. And granted, they had a whole game plan where they were going to try to run the clock. If they had the ball, they were going to try to possess it for 7 minutes and then never let FSU touch the ball. So I get that. But I was impressed with them. I didn't watch a lot of Duke before that. And the biggest thing for them is their quarterback situation. I think that if they know going into the game that the backup is going to play, then they're going to have more of a run-based style game. I think Duke +4. It could happen. They could lose they could make it a field goal game. They might even win the game because for all we know, Leonard might play. And if he does, then they're definitely winning that game. I'm going to ride with Duke just on the hopes that Leonard plays that game. And then Bijon took Duke as well. Duke is the underdog, right? Who's the underdog?
Yeah, I had as the underdog.
They're the underdog. Bijon wrote it a little bit differently there. Last game, this is the largest cocktail party. You got Georgia -14.5, Florida. UGA is gonna. I feel like UGA is going to blow the doors on this. Who do you got?
Yeah, I can't side with Bijon, Mustard on this one. Georgia's gonna enjoy a cocktail party down there in good old Jacksonville. I say lay the 14.5 all day. They're not. Georgia's got the talent and they're the better team. Merch is not gonna be able to do what he's done against other teams against Georgia. I'm good. I think Georgia wins by 20 plus.
Yeah, I think that as we saw last week, that this is the same exact spread in the FSU Duke game, and Vegas came in with that little hook at the end there to try to entice everybody who's betting on the game to take Duke. They're like,
we're not that dumb. We're not that dumb.
So I think this is the same exact situation. They're like, oh, take Florida. Yeah, take Florida. We're giving you the hook. I think Georgia needs. Yeah, as I was mentioning earlier, the playoff rankings are getting ready to come out, and Georgia needs a massive win, like a statement. Bam, we're the defending champions, rivalry game, and they can do it against Florida. I think that Florida has been okay, but it was like a tied game against Vanderbilt. I don't even know. Georgia should be able to win this by 3 touchdowns or more, I would say.
Yeah, the only thing I could see is them getting up by those 3 touchdowns and then Florida covering that spread on a last second garbage type TD. But I'm with you. I just think, but I'm with you. I think Georgia is hands down the better team, and they should dominate on both sides, and it shouldn't be that big of a deal. It should be 3 touchdowns by halftime.
Yeah. I'll be watching that game. I'll be interested to see how. I'll watch the first half to see what it looks like. And who knows? Maybe we'll be surprised. Maybe the Gators are better than what they've been showing all season. And Bijon's not here to defend his lowly Gators.
I love that.
I'm right there. That's going to do it for us on this episode of Sports Caviar, folks. Spotify, Apple, please make sure that you actually do hit that subscribe button on our YouTube channel, because we're going to be starting to do these videos like this. And we love that you guys are listening and partaking in all of our madness. And we'll talk to you next week.